My name is Rebecca Hayes. I'm 39, and I learned the hard way that family loyalty has an expiration date. The moment my own mother stood up in a crowded courtroom and called me unfit to raise my son. "Your Honor, my daughter has always been unstable," she said, her voice echoing across the paneled walls. "She can't keep a job. She's been in and out of therapy. Frankly, I don't think she should have custody of my grandson at all." I sat at the defense table, hands folded, heart pounding. The pale band where my wedding ring used to be seemed to glow under the harsh lights, as if mocking me. Across the aisle, my ex-husband Marcus leaned back with a smug smile, his lawyer nodding as if my mother had just handed them the winning card. Behind them, rows of his relatives filled the benches, whispering, nodding, casting glances like vultures circling prey. On my side, a handful of friends who'd skipped work to sit behind me. People who knew me, people who mattered. And in the very front row sat my 8-year-old son Tyler, wide-eyed, caught between a grandmother who betrayed me and a father who wanted to erase me. I thought betrayal from a spouse was brutal, but betrayal from your own mother? That hits deeper than any knife. Have you ever felt your chest cave in, while the one person who should defend you instead tears you apart? Because that's what happened to me that morning in family court, and what she said next made the entire courtroom turn against me. When the words left my mother's mouth, I wanted to scream. But the truth is, her testimony wasn't born in that courtroom. It had been building for years. After the divorce, I tried to hold it all together. A downtown apartment, an aging sedan that coughed smoke on cold mornings, secondhand school clothes carefully pressed so Tyler wouldn't feel less than the other kids. I worked nights no one saw, brought home files thicker than bricks. I paid the bills. I kept the lights on. And still, my family whispered that I was barely holding it together. They didn't celebrate when I finally left Marcus. They called me dramatic, too independent, too cold. Even when I showed up for Sunday dinners, their conversations slid right past me, like I wasn't even sitting there. When Tyler turned 7, I threw him a party in that tiny apartment. Streamers, balloons, a cake I baked myself. Only 2 kids showed up. My family didn't bother. Not even my mother. But when Marcus threw a party a month later in his shiny suburban house, they all went. Grandparents, cousins, even Karen. They posted photos online. Tyler blowing candles on a cake I hadn't baked, and I had to smile through his excitement, pretending it didn't feel like a knife. Every quiet sacrifice I made, every bedtime story cut short because I had to return to paperwork, was twisted into proof that I was absent, that I was unstable, that I was less. And now in that courtroom, those years of sacrifice were being used as weapons against me. But what no one realized was that silence has its own power, and I was about to use it. The courtroom air grew heavy, like everyone was waiting for me to crack. Marcus's lawyer rose, papers in hand. "Your Honor, the testimony speaks for itself. My client provides stability, a real home, a career that supports his child. Meanwhile, Ms. Hayes lives in a tiny apartment, drives an old car, and hides her employment behind a wall of secrecy." His words spread through the gallery like smoke, heads nodding, murmurs rising. I could almost feel the verdict forming before the judge even spoke. I kept my eyes lowered. Not because I was broken, but because I knew better than to fight too soon. 15 years on the bench had taught me. Sometimes silence is sharper than any cross-examination. Across the room, Tyler shifted in his seat, confused, scared, watching the grandmother he trusted tear into me. And my sister Karen? She avoided my eyes, staring down at her lap, as if silence could wash her hands clean. That was the part that hurt most. The people who knew my sacrifices stayed quiet. The people who should have defended me chose comfort over truth. Judge Patricia Morrison looked down from the bench. I knew her. We'd shared case files, exchanged cautious smiles in chambers. But now her face was carved from stone. Neutral, no rescue. For a sharp, lonely moment, I felt completely abandoned. Marcus leaned toward his attorney. They smirked, certain they'd already won. To them, I was finished, exposed as weak, as unstable, as unworthy. Maybe that's exactly what they wanted. To see me crumble, to prove in front of Tyler that I was nothing. But instead of fury, calm settled over me. The same calm I'd practiced in courtrooms, where lives hung in the balance. Because what Marcus and my mother didn't know, what they couldn't imagine, was that I had prepared for this moment. Every accusation, every whispered doubt, every assumption they clung to, was about to collapse. They thought I was cornered. They thought I was defenseless, but they hadn't seen the hand I was holding. And when I finally played it, the entire courtroom gasped. Judge Morrison finally turned to me. "Ms. Hayes, how do you respond to these allegations?" I rose slowly, every movement deliberate. The room expected me to beg, to defend, to crumble. Your Honor, I said evenly. I'd like to call a witness. Marcus's lawyer snapped his head up, confused. We weren't notified of any witnesses. The witness wasn't available until this morning, I replied, calm as stone. Judge Morrison hesitated, then nodded. Very well, call your witness. The doors opened, and in walked a tall man in an impeccable dark suit, silver hair catching the light. Conversations died. Even the bailiff straightened. I faced the bench. Your Honor, I call Chief Justice William Barrett to the stand. The gasp was audible. My mother's face drained of color. Marcus's lawyer fumbled his notes. Tyler's eyes went wide. Chief Justice Barrett raised his hand, took the oath, and sat with quiet authority. Chief Justice, could you identify me for the record? I asked. You are the Honorable Rebecca Hayes, Associate Justice of the State Supreme Court, where you've served with distinction for 8 years. Silence swept the courtroom. I could hear my mother's sharp breath, see Marcus blinking in disbelief. And could you describe my work responsibilities? Justice Hayes presides over complex civil and criminal cases. She chairs the Ethics Committee. She sits on appellate panels for capital cases. Her opinions have shaped family law across this state. The words hit like thunder. Tyler's mouth opened as the puzzle pieces clicked into place. The late nights, the closed study door, the endless files. One more question, I said. Could you address my financial stability? Justice Hayes earns $195,000 annually, plus benefits. She owns a penthouse downtown and a mountain home. Her disclosures are public record. I turned, meeting my mother's eyes. Her mouth hung open. The confidence she carried into the witness chair was gone. The gallery buzzed in disbelief, and Marcus's smug smile collapsed into horror. For years, I let them believe I was small, ordinary, barely holding it together. But in one moment, the mask dropped, and the real battle, the one they never expected, was about to begin. The silence after Barrett's words hung heavy. I let it stretch. Then I turned back to Judge Morrison. Your Honor, I'd like to submit my judicial performance evaluations, my financial disclosures, and the custody evaluation prepared by Dr. Sandra Williams, court-appointed child psychologist. Marcus's lawyer scrambled to object, but Judge Morrison waved him off. She scanned the files. Dr. Williams rates you as an exemplary parent, with strong emotional bonds to your child, and no concerns about your ability to provide stability. The room shifted. Suddenly, I wasn't the accused. I was the accuser. I faced my mother. You testified under oath that I was unstable, that I couldn't provide for my son. But you never once asked about my work. You never showed interest. You believed Marcus's lies over your own daughter. Her lips trembled. No defense came. Then I turned to Marcus. For 6 years, you lived in my home, watched me bring case files to bed, saw me disappear for conferences. And you thought I was a clerk? The gallery chuckled, nervous, shocked. Even Judge Morrison raised an eyebrow. Of what? I pressed, cutting into his stammer. Of the fact your client was married to a state Supreme Court justice, and never bothered to learn what she actually did? Marcus stared at the floor. The arrogance drained from his face. I stepped back to the bench. My entire career has been dedicated to protecting children. I've removed them from abusive homes, ensured fair custody rulings, fought for their best interests. And now you're telling me I'm unfit to care for my own child? My voice rose, steady and sharp. This isn't just an insult to me. It's an insult to every family I've protected, every child whose safety I've fought for from this very bench. Judge Morrison leaned forward, her voice firm. Given the evidence presented, and the troubling testimony of the mother, I am granting full custody to Justice Hayes. Visitation for the father will be supervised for 6 months, pending completion of co-parenting classes. Gasps, murmurs, the sound of a verdict slicing through years of lies. Tyler's eyes filled with pride as he watched the ruling. For the first time that day, I felt air fill my lungs again. But victory in court didn't erase the wound at home, and the hardest confrontation was still waiting for me. When the gavel fell, the courtroom emptied, but the silence that followed carried more weight than the ruling itself. Tyler ran straight into my arms, his voice small against my shoulder. Mom, why didn't you tell me you were a judge? I knelt so we were eye to eye. Because I wanted you to love me for being your mom, not for what I do in court. He grinned, a spark of pride lighting his face. Does this mean you can send people to jail? Sometimes, I smiled. But mostly, it means I help families figure out how to take care of each other. Behind us, my mother lingered. Her earlier confidence was gone, her eyes wet. Rebecca, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I held Tyler's hand tighter. You testified under oath that I was unfit. You tried to sever the bond between me and my son, without ever asking who I truly was. That isn't something an apology can fix. She flinched, but said nothing. Some betrayals cut too deep. 6 months later, Marcus completed his classes and was granted visitation. He never tried to fight me again. My mother sent another letter. I never answered. Instead, I chose to live in truth. I stopped hiding my light. I stopped shrinking to make others comfortable. I stood tall in who I was. And Tyler saw it. He tells his friends now. My mom's a judge. But more importantly, he tells them, she never gave up on me. That day in court taught me something I'll never forget. Respect earned through silence is fragile. Respect earned through integrity is unshakable. Justice isn't just something you serve. Sometimes it's something you claim for yourself. Have you ever been underestimated by your own family? If you've felt that sting, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments. Because sometimes, speaking it out loud is the first step toward reclaiming your power.